Hi guys, Noonie here. So I've just come back from my third trip to Thailand. That's my third trip now in 1.5 years. So my first trip was in November 2021 and I've just returned, and the date today is the 5th of March. I returned back yesterday, 5th of March 2023 I should add. So yeah, I've spent about 10 weeks in total in Thailand over the past, whatever it is, 16, 17 months, which is quite a bit of time. I worked out, because I'm a bit of a stato, that since the borders opened in Thailand back in November 21, I've spent 14% of my time in Thailand, which is quite. I think it's quite impressive for someone who's got a full-time job and commitments in the UK. Um, so, having had a little bit of experience now in Thailand, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who've had a lot more experience than me. But in a post-COVID world, I think 10 weeks since the borders have opened is quite a bit. I wanted to kind of like make a few videos about my experiences in Thailand and what I kind of like, dislike, where are my favourite places, what are my favourite temples, and all that kind of stuff. I thought I would kick off, particularly with this video, with probably the most controversial topic of all, which is what are the top 5 things I hate about Thailand. Now, hate is a very, very strong word, and I'd like to start this video off by saying I absolutely love Thailand. It's amazing. I fell in love with the place even probably before I went there. I wanted to go to Thailand since probably like 2018, 2019. Finally planned to go in early 2020 actually, but then all the shit kicked off with what. I wasn't able to go for a long time, like many of us. But since borders have opened, I've given every opportunity that I'm given to go, I do go. So, but there are some things that aren't exactly perfect in Thailand, and I'd like to go over these in this video. Now, again, I would say out of the 5 things that I have picked up on, I'd say 3 of them are very nitpicky, and it's hard to come up with 5 things that you dislike about a country that you think is amazing. 2 of them, which is actually the top 2, there's actually nothing the people or the government or anyone in Thailand can actually do anything about. It's just a kind of feature of the country that will never really change. There's probably one thing that could change, but let's go through them anyway, and I'll try and find a picture that represents each of these problems that I find. So this is my top 5 things that I hate about Thailand. Again, I'd like to preface that I absolutely love the country, and I will be doing more videos that are very positive, but I thought I'd kick off with this one. And I think my first picture to demonstrate kind of what I dislike about Thailand, we'll start off with this here. This is clearly some food. This was actually in a Bangkok nightclub, and basically the number 5 thing that I hate about Thailand, and it is in order, so this is the least annoying out of the lot, is restaurant service. Now, what do I mean about that? And actually, many of you have been to Thailand before. Normally, you get service with a smile everywhere you go. Everyone's smiling, everyone's happy. Normally everything's great. So why have I picked up on restaurant service in particular? There's kind of like I suppose it's part of the culture in a way, but say if you order, there's 2 of you going to a restaurant and you order maybe 3, 4, 5 dishes, because that's kind of how it works. As you can see in this picture, you kind of, a lot of the Thai style restaurants, you order something and it's a very small portion, so it's designed to be kind of shared, and you're meant to order many items. Now, this didn't happen in this case, but what tends to happen, and this is the annoying thing, is that Thai restaurants will bring out food as it's ready. So back in the West, you'll order your starters, you'll order your mains, and you'll order your desserts, or whatever it is if you're having a 3-course meal. And your starters will all come out at the same time, then your mains will all come out at the same time, then your desserts will come out at the same time, and you've all ordered your own thing. And that's kind of how it works in the West. Now in Thailand, how it works is that you just order it all at once, and then they bring the food out as and when it's ready. Now, some things might come out very quick, but some things might take ages for it to come. And if you're on a tight schedule, certain Thai restaurants that haven't kind of got that kitchen going working like that, it can slow you down. Trust me. So what tends to happen in not so well run restaurants is that they'll bring something out pretty quick, something that they've probably already started cooking before. Then they'll come out a bit later and bring out some rice. Then they'll come out a bit later and bring out another dish. There was a couple of instances where a dish was forgotten. I think the worst offence of this when I was out there was quite recently when I was in Chiang Rai. I won't name the restaurant, but it definitely wasn't on. Is it J Dodd Road? It definitely wasn't on the corner of J Dodd Road, and it definitely wasn't a Farang run restaurant on J Dodd Road, because of defamation laws. You can't really give restaurants a bad review. But what happened is that we ordered, some som tam. I think I ordered some fish. We ordered some rice, etc. And actually, my dish was fish and rice. One of those like fried fish. They brought out the rice and then told me that they'd run out of the fish. So I was like, okay, but why have you waited until now to tell me this, and you've brought out the rice? So then I said, oh, well, I don't want that anymore. I want steak. I'll have the steak and chips or whatever it was. Or might have had a burger or might have had a steak, but whatever. I changed my order. But they still brought out the rice, and then they brought something else out that I don't even think we ordered. And then, by the time we'd come to it all, and this was one of the few places where my girlfriend ordered somtam and actually said it was not very good. Surely somtam, right? But yeah, so we ended up there for ages, and they forgot one of the dishes. They told us that they didn't have one of them, and then brought out something else, and it was just an absolute disaster. And this happens to more regular than what you'd think. Certainly the whole bringing out things as and when they're ready. If you want to all eat kind of at the same time but want your own dishes, that's just not going to happen in a lot of Thai restaurants. And Thai people, for a start, it's not in their nature to complain, and also it is their culture to order loads of dishes, and they'll all eat bits and bobs. They'll all eat it all between them. But I don't know, it's just that's just one thing that I haven't quite wrapped my head around as a Westerner, that you don't get everything as like we do in the West. So that's just one thing that I find pretty annoying. Again, very nitpicky, very what's the word? Again, that is very, very nitpicky of me. It is a very, very small thing in the grand scheme of things, but it's just one to remember. If you're sitting down particularly in a Thai restaurant, you're just going to have to be aware that things are going to be quite slow. Things are going to come out when they're ready. There might be something that isn't available on the menu, and they might not tell you straight away because they don't want to lose face. You kind of just have to wrap your head around that and deal with it as and when it comes, and just pay the bill, smile. And if everything was quite satisfactory, and everything was smooth, you simply just pay the bill, and you'd probably give a bit of a tip. I normally just either round everything up to the nearest 100 baht, or maybe if it's a bigger meal, tip 100 baht. You don't really tip more than that. It's not like America at all. There might be a whole separate video on tipping, or there's a few of those on YouTube already. But if I wasn't, if I felt like I got messed around a bit and something like that, then my tip becomes like 20 baht. Whereas if I felt like I had really good service, the tip would probably be 100 baht. So anyway, moving on. So the next picture that I'm going to use to describe what I'm going to talk about next is this one. So, number 4 thing that I hate about Thailand, and again, hate is a very strong word, but it is this idea of Thai time. Now, the reason why I've used this picture in particular is organising this day out was a bit of a pain in the arse with my girlfriend and her family. So, and this is all around about the whole, you know, the whole Thai culture thing of about, well, you know, there's no such thing as planning really. If you're going on a holiday and there's a Thai person involved in your holiday, let's say, you just need to make sure you grab the bull by the horns and do all the planning, do all the legwork in terms of, you know, what you're going to do. Because if you kind of just say, oh, do you want to do this, and or let things kind of take their own course, you're going to end up wasting days doing nothing that, you know, you might regret later on. And what I mean by this is, so this, in this example here, this was a very nice place in Buriram actually. It's like a lake, and you've got like little floating restaurants, and you've got like water slides. So I took my girlfriend, her mother, her younger brother, who's like, you know, primary school age, her nephew, her friend and her daughter. We all went got in the car and went to this place. And actually, I paid for, you know, us to go here and eat and everything else. And for, you know, I mean, of course there was kids involved, so they don't eat a lot, but the whole thing cost like, excuse me, like 1,200 baht. It was an absolute bargain. But, you know, it was decided that on this day, it was decided the day before that, yep, okay, tomorrow we're going here. You know, and in my mind, I've got, right, we're going to wake up in the morning, have some breakfast, or pack everything in the car, go and spend a full day there. Now, we end up spending most of the morning just sleeping, occasionally like eating and whatever. Then we get to, you know, go to the mum's at about just before midday. Turns out the kids have already gone to school. So I'm like, well, we're not going to be going today, are we? But what actually happened was that they, at lunchtime, dragged the kids out of school. Now, I don't understand how they managed that, because if you did that in the UK, say, I'm just dragging my kids out of school for a trip, do you mind? They'd be like, yes, we do. And if you keep doing this, we're calling social services. But, you know, it was fine in Thailand. I don't know the score, but you know, it was a good day out. But then, of course, we get the kids out of school, and it's about 1 o'clock, and then we just spend another hour, maybe an hour, fanning about eating and all this kind of stuff, and then we finally get in the car about 1:45. It takes an hour to get there, so it's 1:45. And if anyone's ever been to Thailand, you know the sun sets at 6:30 pretty much every day. You know, there's not much difference between summer and winter. You know, it's like 20-minute change throughout the year. So, you know, I'm thinking now that we've got there, you know, if this was up to me and I organised this myself, you know, we'd have been on the road by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. It just felt like it was dragging on and it was never going to happen. And there were other things as well. We were meant to you know, go to Karat for the day with my girlfriend and her mum. And that kept getting put off because I wasn't kind of putting my foot down. So you have got to be a bit more flexible with your planning, or just take the bull by the horns and say, look, we're doing this or we're not doing it at all. And that's that. Because if you just kind of like let the Thai people take charge of things like that, it's not going to happen, or you're just going to end up wasting half the day, because they just kind of like live by the moment. They don't plan a year ahead, they don't plan a month ahead, they don't even plan a week ahead. They don't really know what they're doing the next day a lot of the time. So It's just the idea of Thai time, and it's one of those things where, say, if I said, "Oh, let's go out tonight about 8 o'clock," you know, she'd be ready at about 8:45, and to her that's still 8 o'clock. So it's just one of those things where if you're a bit more military with things and you like to plan everything to the hour, it's going to be a struggle when you then start dealing with Thai people because they just don't think like that. And that's not a criticism. It is a slight annoyance when you've got that Western mindset of, you clock in at a certain time, you turn up to work early, you don't turn to work late, you do this and you do that. It's just a very different mindset from the Western world, where they're just kind of a bit laissez-faire about everything, and, we'll go when we go kind of thing. And I'm just kind of like, when are we going? So I might have explained that one a bit poorly, but it's just kind of like time management with Thais in general. One thing I will say though is if you've got like a booking with a taxi or a booking with a tour or anything like that, then generally they are very good and they turn up on time. But because at the end of the day they're then getting paid for giving you that service, so that when money is involved they will turn up on time. But when it's just trying to arrange stuff sometimes is a bit of a nightmare. So that's number 4. Very nitpicky again. Thai people are wonderful, and I kind of sometimes wish we were more flexible in the West with this kind of stuff, because I'm one of these people who hates when you're late for things, and I kind of almost wish I could change my mindset a bit, but also meet somewhere in the middle on that particular issue. Now this next one I couldn't find a picture because you don't take pictures of stuff like this when you're away. So how am I going to represent this in a picture? I've got the perfect one here. So this is number 3 thing that I hate in Thailand, and that, while it's not represented very well here, I'll explain why I've used this picture. And the number 3 thing I hate about Thailand is rubbish, trash, and more importantly, the lack of rubbish bins, or trash cans as they call them in America. And the reason why I've used 7-Eleven as a picture is that 7-Eleven you can almost be guaranteed to find a rubbish bin, but anywhere in Thailand sometimes, so I've been to 7-Eleven before, bought a bottle of coconut water, had gone out of that 7-Eleven, walked for 3 minutes or whatever in any particular direction, and then I thought, right, I'm thirsty, I'm going to drink this coconut water. When you finish that coconut water, I can almost guarantee you that the nearest bin is the one that was at the 7-Eleven that you just walked from, and you've probably walked like 500 metres down the road from. Honestly, there are no bins in Thailand. It actually does piss me off sometimes. And what can happen in some places, so what you see in Bangkok is you'll see like there's a black bin liner sitting by the side of the road, and then it's surrounded by loads of other rubbish because people just think, right, there's a rubbish bag there, so I'm just going to kind of add more rubbish to that. And in places like Bangkok and Pattaya, you can kind of get smelly trash piles that end up kind of like rat infested sometimes. I've seen rats running out of bin bags in Bangkok, at like big ass rats as well. So again, it is a bit nitpicky, but this is kind of getting into the top ranks now. The rubbish situation does kind of piss me off sometimes, Partly because there's some beautiful places in Thailand, and generally, places like temples or monuments and all that kind of stuff, they're kept very clean. But then there's some areas that are just covered in rubbish and like covered in plastic, and I just think, oh, it's awful sometimes. But there are some enterprising people, and you see this quite a bit on Pattaya Beach. Is you'll have people who'll go around collecting the plastic bottles and filling up like bin liners with plastic bottles, because they can then sell that. They can make a couple of $100 a day, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the difference between life and death for some people. So in some areas that problem can kind of sort itself out, but it doesn't stop like all the plastic bags. Because look, I mean, all the one-use plastic. I mean, look at excuse me, look at the forks and the spoons and everything, all wrapped in their own plastic and all that kind of stuff. And if you buy an iced coffee, it'll come in a plastic cup with a plastic lid, a plastic straw that's wrapped in plastic. It'll come with a little plastic handle, and then they'll put that in a plastic bag and give it to you. It's just like so much plastic, man. And half the time that just ends up on the floor somewhere. I think this is one of the things that could change, because Thailand is going, it's clear to see that Thailand is going from a third world country to a first world country. It's in that transition. I mean, some places in Bangkok are absolutely immaculate, and you'd think like, some places you'd think you'd be in Dubai or whatever, and then other places you think, fucking hell, man. But yeah, that's my number 3. My number 3 is rubbish, and that is pretty. It's pretty high up on there, because I remember it was in Ayutthaya. I had like a drink of some description, and I was holding the empty bottle of Coke or whatever I'd had for what must have been 20 minutes before I found somewhere that I could put this empty bottle. It would just drove me insane. You just wouldn't get that in a Western country. Not that I want Thailand to turn into the West, absolutely not. But having ample rubbish bins and recycling bins and all that kind of stuff, I think that would come as a result of Thailand's economic growth. I'd hope that is one change that would happen as Thailand becomes a more prosperous country. So now we're getting into the final 2. Now the final 2 are 2 things that I don't think anything can be done about, really. One of them certainly you cannot do anything about this. It's just, without spoiling it, it's just a product of it being in a tropical country. So absolutely nothing that Thai people can do about it. And this next one, I don't think there's much that can be done about this either, without ruining what's great about some of the stuff about Thailand. So let me find the picture for my number 2 thing that I hate about Thailand. Now, this picture is not going to be a nice picture. Here we go. Now, the second thing, number 2 thing I hate about Thailand is getting the shits. It's happened to me twice in very severe cases, but honestly, the last trip, I don't think I had a solid shit all the trip. I think everything was coming out as water. I don't know whether that's because I'm eating the street food, which is great, by the way. I don't know whether it's because I went somewhere and they weren't using fresh ice cubes, they were using tap water ice cubes. That can be a thing that can cause you to get the shits. It could just be eating way too much spicy food, but I eat a lot of spicy food at home, and I'm in reasonable control of my bowels, 99.99% of the time. Whereas in Thailand, that percentage drops significantly. And out of the 10 weeks that I've spent in Thailand, there was 2 instances, and one's an incredibly embarrassing story, but I'll tell it anyway. There's been 2 instances where it's cost me 3,000 baht because of the shits. The second one was very recently in Chiang Rai. So what happened was I booked a private tour for us to go to the Golden Triangle and Tam Luang Cave, I think it's called, that cave where those kids got trapped under the water. That's now become a bit of a tourist destination, and they tell the story of what happened and everything else. And they were going to take us to a few other places around there as well, like a tea plantation where you can make your own tea and all that kind of stuff. It was going to be an awesome day. But then we went to the bad restaurant that I mentioned in number 5. And then within a few hours after that, me and my girlfriend were just fighting for the toilet because we were both just absolutely had the worst diarrhea ever. And that trip, I paid 3,000 baht for us to have basically someone in a car all day take us to all these places. And I just had to cancel it last minute. I just said, look, we can't go on this trip. You know, it's going to take us an hour and a half to get to the Golden Triangle. There's no way I'm going to survive an hour and a half in a taxi without, you know, needing the toilet and needing it like that. And the first story, which was back in last year, so that's why it's the first story chronologically in my mind, was I went to Phuket on the Phuket Sandbox. So that meant I had 7 days where I had to spend in the same hotel. Now that's very important because in one respect I got very lucky here. On the 7th day I had the worst shits of my life. I mean, honestly, terrible. So bad that on the last night I was asleep. I must have farted in my sleep, and it wasn't just a fart, and it was horrific. Luckily, I was facing kind of towards my girlfriend, therefore my backside was facing away from my girlfriend. But essentially, yeah, shit the bed. I woke up instant like, oh my god, what's just happened? And I just said, I've got a problem. Attempted to clean it up, but it was too much. So anyway, when it came to checking out, and that's why I was very lucky that it happened on the last day, because if I had to, because I had to spend 7 days in this hotel, kind of legally by, you know, the rules of the Phuket Sandbox, you had to stay in the same hotel for 7 days and not leave Phuket. So, yeah, basically on checkout, you know, when they go to check everything's okay in the room, they say, sir, everything's not okay. They basically said, what is this that's on the bed? And I kind of said, look, you know what it is. I'll pay for the sheets and all that kind of stuff. So that ended up costing me 3,000 baht as well. So 2 separate occasions, 3,000 baht down the drain, literally because of the shits. But even after those 2 horrific experiences of the shits, there's still one thing that is worse than that. And I haven't got a picture at all to kind of bring to life this particular issue. So what I'm going to do is just find a kind of very tropical picture if I can, because that's the reason why this problem exists. In fact, here we go. I might just give me 1 minute and I'll find the area where I had this problem the most. So here we go. Number 1. Now this is number 1 thing that I hate about Thailand is bugs. Now this picture, you might think, what? You've said, look, you've got a picture of Ayutthaya here. What the hell does this have to do with bugs? This is where I encountered the most bugs. And when I'm talking about bugs, I'm talking about ants ants are everywhere, man. If you're eating in any kind of outdoor restaurant that isn't like 5-star super clean and it's like a Thai style restaurant, you're going to end up encountering some kind of ants, probably. Um, and if when you're eating in the rural areas, on the plastic tables, you've just bought something from the market, you're definitely going to get some ants knocking about, coming onto your food. Flies, 1,000,000% you're going to encounter again, unless you're staying in the Hilton and never leaving the Hilton and going to Central Festival, and that's all you ever do, and go into bars that are kind of like closed door bars. You're going to encounter flies, man, especially when you're eating. If you're eating in an outdoor area, flies are going to be on your food. Now, there was one particular instance where this was on my second trip when I went to Pattaya. We went to a restaurant, and I'll happily name the restaurant because it was nothing to do with them that this problem existed. It's just I had it the worst when I was in this particular restaurant. So flies. So when I went to the Three Mermaids in Pratumnak Hill, it's a very expensive restaurant, very lovely, very great food. I would highly recommend it. However, if you do go there, wear jeans or something, because there were a lot of flies, and I had a couple of I think mosquito bites that I'd scratched, so therefore there was a bit of exposed blood on my leg. Oh my god, the flies just fucking ate me alive, man. It was horrible. It ruined the whole experience. The wonderful, how amazing that restaurant is to look at. I mean, it's Instagram gold, that place. And the food was absolutely wonderful. But throughout the whole thing, I had denim shorts on, my legs exposed, and we were next to the pool area. They've got a small pool area that's got netting over it. I mean, it's great, but I was just getting bitten by these flies, and especially around where I'd been scratching these mosquito bites, and it was just it just ruined the fucking experience. It proper pissed me off. And flies get everywhere, man. Flies will be on your food. Flies will kind of fly around your face. The little ones, they get everywhere as well. But the worst bug of all is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are fuck me, and this is where the whole Ayutthaya thing comes in. So we stopped in this place in Ayutthaya. It was 1,000 baht a night, which I thought was pretty steep considering what this place was. It was basically one of these resorts where you've got the little wooden houses on stilts. I mean, it was nice and everything. It had aircon. It was a quite hard bed, but it was reasonable. But I kind of Ayutthaya was the second part of my trip, and I hadn't pre-booked anything to do with the second half of my trip because of the whole Thai time thing that I didn't like in number 4. Planning too far ahead can be an issue. But yeah, so because it was one of these wooden resorts, there are gaps in the floorboards and stuff like that where it's on stilts, so things can get in, and I think the windows were just those wooden shutters. It wasn't very mosquito proof, and I woke up in the morning, and I won't say there was 100 mosquito bites, but there was definitely 50 plus mosquito bites on me. It was horrific. All my back was absolutely munched to death. In the back of my legs and everything. I don't know. At some point I must have turned over and gotten out of the covers, because I just got mauled. I got absolutely mauled, and I don't know if that on that particular night I wore mosquito spray, because sometimes I forget, and sometimes it's a bit. I don't like the smell of it, so it repels me. But man, there's just sometimes you've got to make sure you take I took jungle formula, and it didn't really. It might have done something when I used it, but I can't remember using it that night, and I just got mauled. I got absolutely munched to death. And the next day I was just itching like hell. It was really bad. And the reason why this is number 1 and it's above the shits, even though the shits can ruin your day, more than anything, more than any bug, unless you get something like dengue, then you're in real trouble. But the bugs is something that you will encounter pretty much every day when you're in Thailand. Like the flies and the mosquitoes. I don't think there was a single day where I wasn't bitten by a mosquito. Now, one or two mosquito bites on your leg, you know, as long as you don't get anything like dengue, then I can live with it. But there were a couple of days where I just got munched to death, and that one day in Ayutthaya, I just thought, this is fucking ridiculous, you know. And my girlfriend got like one or two bites, and I honestly did. I'm not joking. It must have been 50 or more. It must have been. Honestly, it was like. It felt like my back was like a Braille newspaper. Like, I'm sure if a blind person just went like that, they'd be able to tell me it said something like "you're a dickhead" on my back or whatever. It was just horrific. But anyway, that is. So I'll just leave with this picture. But yeah, that is my top 5 things I hate about Thailand. Again, I will say that it was very difficult to come up with this list. I absolutely fucking love Thailand. I'll be back. I'll be going every year. If I could live there, I would. And, you know, I'm hoping in the kind of medium term I do find a way to do that. But there are just these 5 things and possibly a couple of others that didn't quite make the list. I can't think of those off the top of my head. I think maybe some people's crazy driving might have made the list. But I might do a separate video on driving, because I had a car for 11 days and I drove, you know, about 2,000 kilometres. And it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. But that is a separate video. But anyway, if you've made it all this way, thanks very much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Give us a like, click the bell, all that shit. And stick around, because I'm going to be doing a few more of these videos, especially if you like them. So, thanks for watching. Peace out.